I'm going to take you on a tour quick here of an area of northern Wisconsin that I've recently started to explore here in 2021. And that is the Washburn Ranger District of the Chequamegon National Forest. That's an area that covers most of or a lot of Bayfield County. It doesn't have, spectacular waterfalls or dramatic rock relief or Great Lake waves crashing ashore, but there's a special feeling there. It has a sort of essence. I don't know if I believe in these things, but there's just there's a good underlying spirit in this place, and it's very peaceful and very quiet. And I think maybe what's most exciting, is that there's so many camping and lodging opportunities nearby, with great access to trails, old growth forests in parts of the area, and a ton of lakes and little streams and rivers that you can kind of get up close to. If you are a fisherman, you're going to really like this location. A ton of little lakes that you're going to get kind of out into the wild without walking too far. And but you're going to have your own little lake and plenty of good fishing spots. So you will enjoy that if you're a fisherman, and if you are a hiker or a backpacker, it's got the North Country Trail and some other trails crossing through this area. So specifically, I want to look at the Rainbow Lake Wilderness. The Rainbow Lake Wilderness is an area, a federal wilderness area within the National Forest. It's positioned between Drummond and Delta. It's very easy to access. There are paved roads kind of skirting the borders, very wide roads, easy to drive roads. Even when you get onto some of the gravel roads, you shouldn't have a problem with accessing it from whatever vehicle. A lot of different parking areas, kind of ringing around the whole wilderness area. And what's special about this wilderness area that makes it a federal wilderness? It's non-motorized. There won't be ATV traffic going through, so it's very quiet. It's very dark skies at night. And this wilderness, of the ones in Wisconsin, happens to have a number of, really great campsites. And that's what this video is kind of going to go through. I'm going to take you on a quick tour of some of the different sites that you can access. The Rainbow Lake Wilderness Area, it is bisected by the North Country Trail, which runs north to south. And it is also bisected by the Anderson Grade Trail that runs east to west. So starting from the top, from accessing from the north, as you make your way along the North Country Trail, you're going to come to a campsite at Tower Lake. That is about 2 miles in from the first trailhead. Another mile down the trail, you're going to come to Rainbow Lake, another campsite there. And then maybe about another mile, you come to the intersection with the Anderson Grade Trail. You have a choice then to kind of go off onto the Anderson Grade and access Anderson Lake. And there's a campsite there, primitive site. On the other side of the Anderson Grade Trail is the Perch Lake drive-in campground. But going further south along the North Country Trail, you'll hit a really great campsite at Renard Lake. And then as you keep going south out of the wilderness and back into just the regular national forest, there's still a couple more sites. There's one on Mirror Lake, and Essex Lake, I believe, has one. I didn't check it out. But if you keep going, you're almost to Drummond or Drummond Woods, and there is a campsite right along the Long Lake Branch River, and this is a campsite that I actually stayed at, so I can really tour you around that one. Perch Lake Campground is literally across the street from the Rainbow Lake Wilderness and right across the street from the trailhead for the Anderson Grade Trail. There are two entrances. There's a north entrance and a south entrance. So if you are driving through the south entrance and you're not impressed by the campsites, go back out to the Drummond and Delta Road there and head to the north campground. Those sites, most of them are lake frontage with gorgeous views. This is a really great drive-in campground, and I made a point to kind of come back to the Rainbow Lake Wilderness just to camp at Perch Lake Campground and kind of hike around the area. It's very convenient. It is a federal national forest campground, so it's not going to have plumbing or running water or showers, so it doesn't have that amenity, but pit toilets and really nice drive-in campgrounds with wonderful views and super quiet at night. Really dark skies, so you're going to get a sky full of stars, and hopefully you can score one of the lakefront sites. And if you want to drop in a fishing line or go kayaking or boating, an excellent place to stay, and you can't beat it for proximity to the Rainbow Lake Wilderness. The Tower Lake campsite is a primitive site, so it's not on the map. It's not an official site. It is 2 miles in from the north trailhead for the North Country Trail, and that's the northernmost trailhead in the Rainbow Lake Wilderness. So it's pretty easy walk in. It is directly off the trail. You're not going to be able to miss this. You'll probably accidentally walk into the site if you're hiking along the trail, because the trail makes a little jog to the right, and you might accidentally walk into the campsite and miss the trail. So easy to find. It's a little bit elevated from the lake and a little bit set back, and that's kind of nice. So you're going to get a breeze in summer. Probably will help you with the bugs a little bit to be just a little bit away from the lakeshore edge. There's a nice fire ring. It's a pretty small site. You're going to be able to set up 2 to 3 tents, directly in the site. If you have a larger group, there's plenty of flat ground, in the woods around that area, and a nice view of the lake beyond your fire. So it looks like a beautiful site. I would put this one on my list of primitive sites to go find. The Rainbow Lake campsite is another primitive site, and it's just a mile south of the Tower Lake campsite. And these are primitive sites, so there's no latrine or restroom. It's just a flat piece of ground that has room for tents, and each of these primitive sites has a fire ring that's been constructed. But no amenities. This is primitive camping. They're not official sites, so nobody's taking care of them. It's kind of up to you as the camper to take care of and clean up this site. So getting into the Rainbow Lake site, this is probably a popular site just because it is Rainbow Lake and it's kind of the namesake camping, it's the namesake lake and of this wilderness. So I imagine that people who are backpacking and hiking through are expecting, to have a really great campsite here. And it is a nice site. It's very flat. Definitely going to be able to get 3 or 4 tents set up. And there's a nice little fire ring, but it is kind of in vegetation. It's surrounded by vegetation. There's not a clear view of the lake. You can get down to the lake edge, down to the lake shore if you need to grab some water to filter. But you're not really going to get that lake view campsite experience. It's definitely a great place to spend the night as you're backpacking on the North Country Trail. But I guess the other sites are maybe a little bit more impressive, or have that extra scenic value. The Anderson Lake campsite is on Anderson Lake, and it is right on the lake. The fire ring is maybe 2 feet from the lake shore. Behind the fire pit, there's a short little, few yards, kind of up a gentle slope, and there's a nice little flat spot for maybe 2, maybe 3 tents up on that flat spot. Great unobstructed view of the lake. Again, it's a primitive site. There's no latrine, and it's up to you to, keep the site clean. This site is 2 miles along the Anderson Grade Trail from Perch Lake. So if you start at Perch Lake and just head out on the Anderson Grade Trail, which is a very easy trail to hike, there's hardly any elevation change to it at all, and it's very wide, easy to follow. And you'll be going along the Anderson Grade Trail. There's a little offshoot trail there, so there's a little trail intersection. It's not hard to find. So there's 2 very wide trails that intersect, and one of them kind of goes off in the direction of the lake. So you'll follow that, and off of the Anderson Grade Trail, you'll follow that wider trail as it gets closer to the lake. It becomes more of a narrow single track footpath. Just keep going and trust that this footpath is going to take you down to the lake shore. And when you get there, there's a couple of little trails branching off in different directions. When you find the fire ring, that is the site. So if you're looking around and you're along the lake shore and you're not seeing, you're thinking maybe this is a campsite, but maybe not. You'll be sure when you get to the fire ring on the lake shore. So Renard Lake is the best campsite in the Rainbow Lake Wilderness. It's just kind of amazing, and unfortunately I did not take any video of it, but I've got some photos to share with you, and this is another one that's right off the North Country Trail, impossible to miss, and it's super flat and super large. I don't know how many tents you could get in there. I mean, you could probably get 30. So this is a large, could accommodate a large group. It has got kind of framed views of the lake, so you're just elevated a couple feet above the lake. You've got these giant pine trees that are framing views of the lake in every direction. Excellent fishing spot. This is a really well cared for site. There is a fire ring, and somebody built a kind of a little elevated log bench. So it is very close to Renard Lake Road. I would say probably only half a mile. So I am guessing that this site is usually occupied. This would be the hardest one to get. So these are all first come, first serve sites. If there's somebody on the site, you're just going to have to move on. And I think it's, fair to note that you can disperse camp anywhere within the wilderness or the national forest. So, if you had your heart set on getting to this particular campsite and you're out of energy to backpack anymore, I would say just, either follow along the lakeshore. You'll find another spot. And in general, the Rainbow Lake Wilderness, there are some swampy areas, but there's a lot of flat ground. So if you need to just make an impromptu site, just to get some rest overnight and get back on the trail, you're not going to have a problem. But I would say it's a good thing to remember to respect that these are first come first serve sites, and not expect that you're necessarily welcome if somebody is already camped at that site. So this one might be tricky to get on the summer weekends, but if you are traveling on the weekdays, you might come across this site and you might get lucky. This would be one that would be a joy to camp at. So, getting out of the Rainbow Lake Wilderness and along the North Country Trail, you're still in the national forest south of the Rainbow Lake Wilderness as you approach Drummond, and you're gonna go. The trail gets a lot more hilly, so a lot more elevation change, and you're gonna go past a number of small lakes, and one of those is Mirror Lake. There is a campsite. Again, it is impossible to miss. It is right off the trail, and there's a sign for Mirror Lake along the trail, pretty much right at the little side trail that goes off to this campsite. This campsite is really low, and it's right on the lake shore. There's two really gigantic white pine trees. One of them is dead, and I think this is the reason that I hesitated to camp at this particular site. There was a storm coming in on the night that I was hiking through here, and there's this just really tall dead tree with a lot of dead branches kind of hanging over the site. So it kind of gave me pause. On a still night, I think I would be okay if there was no wind camping in this site. And it's really scenic. It's a beautiful spot. You're just surrounded by water there and directly off the trail. So the Long Lake Branch River flows through the Chequamegon, and I'm not sure exactly what this area, if this is in the Drummond Woods State Natural Area, but it is only about 2 miles from the trailhead for the Drummond Woods, and that would be to the south of this campsite. It's pretty hilly terrain as you approach it from either direction, and you kind of dip down into this river valley, and sometimes this river might be just kind of a stream. It was when I was there, but I have also seen it kind of maybe at its higher capacity. It really flows, and so it's this tremendous wilderness kind of view, this kind of scenic little valley that's covered in ferns, and there's pine trees, shading the whole valley, and there's directly off the trail. There's a little campsite that is on the riverbanks, and it's just kind of surrounded by this ox-bowing river that winds all the way around this site. So this is where I chose to camp as I was hiking the North Country Trail through here, and there's an excellent source for drinking water right out of the stream. Obviously, you have to filter that, but it's a little bit better than, in my opinion, than filtering out of a lake. So you've got your water source, and then, after a long day of backpacking, if you want to cool your feet in the stream or wash up, this is, it's great to have that moving water. Plus that sound of this babbling brook or this river that's kind of rushing around you is, really atmospheric while you're sitting around the campfire or falling asleep. It's a beautiful scene to wake up to. This is a great little site, and it seems to be pretty popular. So I didn't think that it was that large that it accommodated a lot of tents, but I was hiking here this fall and came across this site, and there was a youth group out there. They had probably 20 little individual tents. So, if you really pack in your tents, you can get a group in there, and just a super nice campsite. So I'm gonna leave you with this note, and I'll let you watch these campfires that I had in the Rainbow Lake Wilderness, just for fun. But I just want to mention here that I think what's great about the Rainbow Lake Wilderness and this kind of area of the National Forest, for me, is that if you're not sure, what you're gonna do or what kind of camping you're up for, you can kind of just aim for this general area, and it's gonna be great. There's the Perch Lake drive-in campground, and then not too far from that, like I'm talking like maybe 15 minutes away, is the really excellent Two Lakes campground. That's also on the North Country Trail. You're only, going to be a half hour away. If you're in the Rainbow Lake Wilderness, you're like a half hour drive from the Porcupine Lake Wilderness that the North Country Trail also runs into. So you've got all that. And then there's campgrounds. There's a private campground, right in the National Forest in Sealy. And that is, mostly for mountain bikers and cross-country skiers, but it's a really cool little private campground, the Rome Adventure Base Camp. They've got 4 little tiny home cabins that are brand new and super beautiful. And then there's also some drive-in campsites for tents, and they have a separate drive-in campground for RVs. There's all kinds of RV camping around. And you're in Bayfield County, so there's so much, to do, and there's so much lodging nearby here. So you're about a half hour outside of Ashland. Ashland has a number of great hotels and inns. You're maybe an hour from Bayfield and from Madeline Island. Tons of inns and tons of things to do around there. You've got the Apostle Islands. You're about a half hour away from there. You've got the Brule River. The Chequamegon River actually is probably a little bit closer to this area, and that's a national scenic river with campsites all along it for that you can canoe into. Tons of outfitters in the area that you can rent canoes from. They'll take care of everything. And then, if the weather turns bad, you can drive up to Duluth, and that's like an hour away. Stay at a nice hotel with a view of the lake, kind of enjoy like the city things. So it's just like one of these spots that if it's a weekend and, maybe you've got a 3-day weekend and you're not sure what to do, you don't have reservations, you can just kind of head up to this area in Bayfield County, kind of surrounding this little town of Drummond. And I forgot to mention, Drummond itself has a little RV campground right there that has showers and great facilities. So no matter what, I think you're going to find a place to camp or a place to stay, even on a really busy, holiday weekend. You've got the primitive options. You've got the drive-in campground options. And then you've got all the lodging that's, kind of around this area. So it's just a great place if you're just not quite sure what you want, but you just want to get away from it all. this is kind of my new spot. The Rainbow Lake Wilderness is kind of my new, little happy place that I can just, it's not a quick drive from the south end of the state. I mean, it's 4.5 hours from Madison, a little bit more for Milwaukee and Chicago. But it's an easy drive, and you can get up there, and you're gonna have that experience, that wilderness, getting away from it all experience. So I hope you enjoyed kind of my video and the little tour that I gave you. Also, my blog is wisconsin-explorer.blogspot.com. You can read all about my hikes around the state, and there's a post specifically about Drummond Woods and the Rainbow Lake Wilderness and all of the North Country trails through this area. So please check that out, and thank you.